Nag-record na ba? Okay, so let's continue. So remember that in analytical chemistry, we are doing measurements. No? So every time you have numbers or you have measurements, then you have to take some statistical data from it. No? So kailangan kunan mo siya ng statistical data. Hindi lang pwede yung measure ka ng measure, then okay na yun. Okay, so no. You may want to check whether your data are scattered or not, no? Or if it follows the true value, let's say, no? So, or meron kang outliers, no? So, titignan natin ngayon how to check whether your data are scattered. Scattered data meaning pangit measurement, no? Excuse me. So, scattered data, pangit measurement. So, we will check, no? Ano yung mga pwede gawin to minimize the scattering of data. Okay. And then we will check also kung meron tayong mga outliers. No? So outliers are the data that are too far from the rest of the measurements. No? So isa-isahin natin yan later. Okay, so every time we do measurements, the reason why we use statistics to interpret the numbers is that they contain errors. No? So always may error when it comes to measurement. No? Pwedeng hindi mo na-fill yung meniscus mark. Okay, so that means mali yung concentration mo after mo gumawa ng solution. Okay, so yun yung mga possible errors. Pwede rin naman yung instrument mo hindi siya calibrated. No? So that means your instrument gives you wrong readings. No? And for us to have an idea whether there are errors in your measurement, we have to use stats. No? Kailangan natin i-incorporate yung statistics in our chemical measurements. No? Okay. So, statistics gives us tool to accept conclusions. Pwede tayo, if you could still remember, pwede tayo dito mag-accept and reject ng hypothesis natin using t-test, no? Okay, so yun. Although hindi na natin i-cover yung accepting or rejecting hypothesis, no? So focus lang tayo sa central tendencies. Okay? So when we say central tendency, this is a statistical tool that represents the center point of your data set, no? So hinahanap niya yung pinaka-center ng lahat ng measurement, no? And usually tatlo yan, okay? So we have the mode, the median, and the mean, okay? So start na tayo with the mean. When we say mean, that is just the average of all the values. And it has a formula, x bar, meaning average yan, equals to the sum of your measurements divided by the number of measurements you have. Okay? So that's the mean. Ito yung sum of all the measurements. Lahat ng ginawa mong measurement, ipag-add mo sila. And then you divide them later by how many measurements you have, or letter N. Okay? Okay, so let's have some example here. Okay, so let's compute for the water hardness data. Na minimize. Okay, so we have 310, 314, 325, 300, and 327. So how are we going to get the average? Madali lang yan. Okay. So una, you will add all the data. So 310, 314, 325, 300, 327. I-add mo lang yan lahat. Sabay na lang kayo. 314, 325, 300, so that's 1,576. Okay? And then, ito yung sum ng x, no? Ito yung e of x. The sum ng x. Okay? So, for us to get the average, that is just the sum of x divided by the number of measurements mo. So, that's 1576 divided by 5. Your average will be ano nangyari sa Teams? Okay, so your average will excuse me, will be 315.2. Okay? So that's how we get the average, okay? Or the mean. So add mo lang lahat, divide mo lang. No. So yun. Sir, may shortcut ba dyan? Okay. Excuse me. May shortcut akong tuturo sa inyo mamaya na siya yung magbibigay ng mean, standard deviation sa calculator niya. Tuturo ko yan mamaya. Okay? So, wait lang kayo para mabilis yung buhay. Okay? So, that's how we get the average or the mean. Add mo lang lahat and then divide them by how many measurements you have. Okay? Next one is the median. Okay, so when we say the median, we are pertaining to the middle result. No? So, pinakagitnang measurement sa lahat ng sinolve mo. Okay. So, if your measurement or your data points is an odd number, kukunin mo yung pinakagitna. Okay. Kunwari, 7 yan. Okay. So, kapag may 7 na data ka, ito na lang, itong 5. Okay. So, kunwari, ito yung data mo, you arrange them from lowest to highest. Okay. Lowest to highest. And then yung pinakagitna, that will be your median, okay? So, so ginagawa ko dito dati, ititik mo lang yung outer numbers. So, kunwari ito, okay, cancel mo yan. Ito, cancel mo yan. And then you will be left with just one number in the middle. That's your median for odd numbers. Pero kapag yan ay even numbers, let's say ganito. So, ayan, let's say ganyan yan. Again, you arrange them from lowest to highest, and then you cross off the numbers at each end. And then you will be left with 2. 2 sa gitna. Okay. So, ganun kapag even numbers, no? May matitirang dalawa sa gitna. You will just get their average and then that will be your median. Okay? So, ganun lang. So, yan. So, yung pinaka-middle ng lahat ng inyong measurement. Pag sinabi namang mode, okay? So, kapag sinabing mode, that is the most frequent measurement, the most frequent value, kung ano yung nauulit-ulit sa inyong measurement. Okay? So, hanapin mo lang yan. For example, in this measurement, you have 325, naulit siya twice. So, that will be your mode. Okay? So, pwede tayong magkaroon ng unimodal, meaning iisa lang yung nauulit na number. Pwede rin tayong magkaroon ng bimodal, ibig sabihin, dalawa yung nauulit na number. Okay? So, pero yung pinaka-focus natin dito is yung mean. Okay? So, ganun lang. Okay, so next one will be on accuracy and precision. Okay, so again, pag sinabi natin accuracy, we are pertaining to the nearness or the closeness of your measurements to the true value. Okay, so pwede natin makuha yan by obtaining the percent error. Okay, so if mababa yung percent error, then that means your measurements are accurate. Okay, pag sinabi naman natin precision, we are pertaining to the closeness of your data. Okay, and we can obtain the idea about precision when you get your spreadness value or the standard deviation. Okay, so yun. So our measurements may be precise but not accurate. Meron namang accurate pero hindi precise. Meron din namang parehas parehas tama. So accurate sila and precise at the same time. So ganun lang. Ano pa ba? Okay, so the next one will be about errors. Okay, so in doing measurements, there are lots of possible sources of error. Okay, so we have 3 types of errors that we encounter in analytical chemistry. So the first one will be the random error or the indeterminate error, and the type of error is innate in measurements. Meaning ng innate, kasama na talaga yan sa measurements. Indeterminate nga, no? So, hindi mo malalaman kung ano yung pinaka-source. Okay? So, kasama yan sa measurement talaga, yung random error. Okay? So, yan. So, yun. again, ano yung mga causes ng random error naman? So, when we say random error, sabi natin innate yan in the measurement, kasama na talaga yan, and hindi mo na siya makokontrol because random errors are effects of uncontrolled variables, no? So, ano yung mga uncontrolled variables natin? Pwede yung ating glassware nag-expand, nagko-contract, no? So, yan. Hindi mo kasi over short ranges of temperature, pwede mag-contract expand yan, no? So, yun yung mga pwedeng errors, no? Yung mga uncontrolled variables, no? Hindi mo na siya makakontrol talaga. Andyan na yan. So, that's innate in the measurement. Okay? So, yan. When you say systematic error naman or determinate error, ibig sabihin, nasa system yung mali. Okay? Ibig sabihin sa process mo ng pag-measure yung mali, no? And this is determinate, okay? Because you can actually deduce the idea kung saan siya galing, no? Saan galing yung error, okay? So, yan. So, this can be corrected and discover, okay? Pero medyo tricky, okay? Kasi hindi mo mapapansin yung errors sa measurements, no? Especially yung systematic error din. Hindi mo siya masyado ma madedetect, no? Unless i-check mo talaga kung ano yung mali, no? So, what are the types of systematic error? So, pwedeng may instrument errors tayo. For example, um, hindi mo hindi mo kinalibrate yung instrument mo. So, that means it will give you wrong data. So, systematic error yon. Pwede naman sa instrument error because of the fluctuation of electricity, di ba? Minsan mapapansin niyo sa bahay niyo yung ventilador niyo bigla-bigla lumalakas, biglang hihina, no? So, yun ay dahil sa fluctuation ng electrical supply, no? So, gano'n din yung pwede mangyari sa instruments, no? Pwede kapag tumaas bigla yung voltage ng kuryente, no? Nagpabago-bago kasi yung yung sinusupply sa atin na kuryente ng Meralco. So, that fluctuates over time. So, pwedeng may effect yon sa instrument, no? So, it could give very sensitive measurement. Pwede rin namang hindi, no? So, may difference sa pwede niya ibigay na result because of kuryente lang. That's why yung mga instruments natin, meron siyang sariling AVR. So, yung parang sa computer dati, may AVR yun, di ba? So that is a voltage regulator that makes the voltage constant, no? Para yung excuse me. Para yung readings nyo ay constant, no? Okay, kasi kapag fluctuating yung voltage, magbabago-bago yung results nyo. Okay, the next type of error is the method errors. Okay, so ano yan? So that is error dahil sa inyong methods, no? So pwedeng nagkamali ka ng filter, no? Excuse me. Pwede ang nagamit mo na filter paper ay yung coffee filter, no? Instead of the usual number 10 filter, no? So pag nagkamali ka ng filter na ginamit, pwedeng mamali yung result, no? Okay? So pwede naman sa chemical reaction, no? So instead na precipitate mo, iba yung ginawa mong process, no? So mali yung result nun. So that's method error. So may mali ka sa method mo, whether that's physical or chemical methods. And then last one is the personal error. Ito naman yung because of the carelessness, no? So pwedeng ito yung mga sumobra ng tubig sa wall flask. O pag nadagdagan mo masyado ng tubig yung wall flask, so mamamali yung concentration nun. So that's personal error. Okay, so pwede rin naman ang personal error ay dahil sa sa saan ba? Pwede dahil siya sa incapacity nyo to do the experiment, no? So pwedeng kunwari napilay yung kamay mo kasi hindi mo mahawakan masyado yung excuse me, hindi mo masyado mahawakan yung wall flask. So nagagalaw-galaw yung wall flask mo. So mali-mali yung makukuha mong meniscus mark. Okay, so that's personal error. Yung ikaw na mismo yung may mali, no? Because of your capacities, no? Okay, so pwedeng hindi mo naman alam yung method pero ginawa mo pa rin, mali yung result mo. Personal error yan. Okay? So that's why kapag tayo nasa laboratory, we should be able to know yung lahat ng pwedeng mangyari sa lab, no? Kasi kapag hindi ka experience sa laboratory, especially when you are in the industry, most likely maraming systematic errors in yung measurement. Okay? So ikaw na yung may kasalanan doon. Okay? So ganun lang. So again, when detecting this systematic error, it is possible to detect them. However, it requires time, no? So kailangan isa-isahin mo talaga yung mga possible sources of errors, no? Then mapipinpoint mo siya sa isang source. Okay? Wait lang. And lobat na yung laptop eh. Okay. So yun yung systematic error, no? So again, systematic errors, these are determinate, no? Ibig sabihin you can detect kung saan may mali. Kaso, medyo mahirap, no? Kasi sometimes you have to even question yourself, no? In order for you to detect the systematic error. So ito yung mga possible sources, no? Ng systematic error. Okay, so yun lang. And then last one, gross error. Pag sinabing gross error, yung word mismo, gross, ibig sabihin, ito yung pinakamali sa lahat ng mali. Okay. And ito, alam mo to na mali ka talaga dito sa gross error. Bakit? Kasi pwedeng magkamali ka ng tingin. So that's a form of gross error. Okay, so especially kapag yan ay mga volumetric stuff. For example, thermometer, 'di ba sa loob nun, pwedeng imbes na makita mo is 31, nakita mo 21, maling-mali 'yon. So that's gross error. Okay, so kapag sinabing gross error, parang personal error 'yan, pero super laki ng difference sa measurement. Okay? So yan. Ano pa isang example ng gross error? Kunwari, you are doing titration, tapos anong nangyari? Nabasag mo yung burette, di nahulog lahat ng solution sa container nyo. Yun, gross error yan. Okay? Kasi maling-mali talaga yan. Sumobra na yung nilagay mo. Okay? So, ano yung difference yan with personal error? So, yung personal error, medyo small lang yung difference niya with the true value, okay? Or with the other measurements. So, onti lang yung difference niya. Pero pag sinabi natin gross error, malaki na masyado yung difference. And dito sa gross error, dito pumapasok yung ating outliers, no? So, outliers are the data na super layo from everything else. Yun yung gross error. Okay? So, in summary, ito yung ating errors. Okay? So, again, random error or indeterminate error. This is something that is innate in your measurement. Ibig sabihin, kasama na talaga yan. Okay? So, andyan talaga yan. Hindi mo na yan tatanggal. Okay? So, that is something that cannot be determined, no? And wala tayong solution to address that. Okay? So, hayaan mo lang. Okay? Kaya nga meron tayong normal curve, no? So, yung normal curve, it tells us about the probability of our measurements. Pwedeng nandun ka sa dulo, pwedeng nandun ka sa gitna, no? So, yun yung mga random errors sa measurement. Parang lang yung bell curve. Okay. Next one is the systematic error. Pag sinabi ng systematic error, this can be determinated. No? Okay, so pwede mo siya makuha and then you can avoid it. No? However, it will take time, no? Para makita mo talaga yan. So you have to check your instrument very well. You have to check if your methods are correct. Or pwede naman i-check mo yung sarili mo if ikaw na yung may mali. No? So, yan. So, ano yung solution natin for systematic errors? We can do calibrations, no? Standard calibration. No? Yung hindi ko alam kung na-discuss na sa inyo sa lecture. No? Pero andun yung standard calibration. Okay, so you are going to compare your measurement with the standard solutions, no? Nasa lecture yun kung nadaanan nyo na. Okay? And then last one is the gross error. So ito talaga yung maling-mali, no? And it results to outliers. So for you to address this issue, you can repeat the process. Ulitin mo na lang ulit. Okay? So, yan. As much as possible, pag kayo, nag-work na kayo sa industry, hopefully, hindi nyo makommit yung gross error, no? Kasi medyo ano to, medyo masisira yung reputation mo dito. Okay? Although that's normal, okay? We are dealing with numbers. Well, lahat naman nagkakamali din na. Okay, pero yun, as much as possible, iiwasan natin yung gross error. Okay lang itong dalawa. Itong dalawa okay yan. Pero ito X. Okay? And then, next one, we will check the bad data. Okay, so pag sinabi natin bad data, so check natin if our data are spread out. Ibig sabihin kung nakakalat ba yung data natin. Okay, o titignan din natin kung may outliers, no? So for us to check whether our data are spread out or if there are outliers, then we can use some equations here. Okay, so number one is the standard deviation. So standard deviation tells us about the spreadness of data. So spreadness yan. Spread. Ay. It tells us about the spreadness of data. No? So ibig sabihin gaano kalat yung data mo. If your standard deviation is very low, ibig sabihin mababa yung standard deviation mo, hindi spread out yung data mo. So that means your data are precise. No? However, if your data are spread out, ibig sabihin malaki yung standard deviation mo, ibig sabihin kalat yung measurement mo. So that means you are not precise. Okay, mababa yung precision nyo. So for us to solve for the standard deviation, this is the formula to be used. So that standard deviation equals the square root of the sum of the measurement minus the average squared divided by n minus 1. Okay? So mamaya, gamitin natin ito. Okay, sa worksheet, doon tayo magsasagot. Pag sinabi namang relative standard deviation, we are checking the standard deviations difference with your x bar or your average. No? Titignan mo kung gaano kalayo yung standard dev sa average mo. Okay, so to get that RSD or the relative standard deviation, that is standard deviation divided by the mean. Okay, so ganun lang. Okay, so kunwari ito. So we have the data here. Ito pa rin yung kanina. So ito yung water hardness data. Okay? So nakuha natin kanina that the average is 315.2 parts per million. Ang gagawin nyo para makuha nyo yung standard deviation and yung RSD is ganito. Gagawa kayo ng columns, no? So you have your X here. This is the measurement. And then on the next column, you're going to subtract your measurement with the average. So pag subtract mo ito minus that, this minus that, this minus that, so on and so forth. Yun yung nandito sa column na to, sa x minus x bar. And then on the next column, you will square the value of this column. Okay? So x minus x bar square, i-square mo lang. Okay? So you have this. And then you will add them up. So that will be the sum of x minus x bar square. So, ito na yon. So, nakuha mo na yung sum ng x minus x bar square. Okay, di-divide mo na lang siya sa number of measurements minus 1, then kunin mo yung square root. So, you're good to go. Okay? So, yeah. So, since we have 5 measurements here, so that will be 5 minus 1. Ito yung sum of x minus x bar. Kunin mo lang yung square root, then your standard deviation is 11.12. Ayan. 11.12 ppm. Okay, so that means your data are spread by that much. No? Yan yung spreadness. Yeah. Then to get the RSD, the relative standard deviation, okay, you're going to compare your standard def with your mean. So that will be S divided by X bar. Okay, so that will be 0.0353. Okay, mamaya magpa-practice tayo, don't worry. Okay, so medyo daan-daanan lang natin. And then, excuse me, malapit na tayo matapos. And then lastly, we check for the bad data na outlier. How are we going to check for outliers? No? So actually, marami tong tools. No? Pwedeng grabs test, pwede rin Q-test. No? Pero grabs test muna tayo ngayon. Okay? Dati kasi Q-test gamit namin. No? Q-test. No? Q. No? So, ito yan. Q-test. Similar lang din siya with grabs test, no? Mas madali nga siya actually. Pero ito na lang, gamitin natin grabs test. Okay, so grabs test is a test for outlier. And what we're going to do is that ito yung formula natin um, to get the conclusion whether our suspected value is an outlier or not. Okay, so paano to? Teka lang. So, paano to gagawin? So, gagawin mo, you will solve for the G calculated. Okay? So, yung G calculated, that is equal to the absolute value of your questionable value minus the average. No? So, ano yung questionable value, sir? Ikaw mag-a-assign yan. Okay? So, ikaw mag-a-assign. Sino sa tingin mo yung bad data? Sino sa tingin mo yung outlier? So, you're going to assign that. Okay? Then, minus X bar. So, isusubtract mo yung inassign mong value na questionable with the average. Susubtract mo sila. And then, you will all divide it by the standard deviation. Okay? Then, what's next is that, okay? So, what's next is that kung ano yung makuha mong G-calculated value, you are going to compare that with the G values here. Okay? So, compare mo siya dito sa table na to. So, ito yung G at 95% confidence. Yan yung kanyang corresponding value. We call this the G tab. We call this the G tabulated. Okay? So, this is the G calculated. This is the G tabulated. So, after mo makuha yung G calculated and yung G tabulated for a certain number of measurement, you're going to compare that. If G calculated is greater than G tab, then the outlier should be discarded. Okay? If your G calculated is less than the G tabulated, that means you have to retain it and that is not an outlier. Okay? So, hindi lahat ng feeling mo malayo ay outlier. No? So, in order for you to obtain whether outlier yan or not, grabs test ang gagamitin. Okay? So, this is one example. Mamaya magpa-practice din tayo. Okay. So, for example, this is the mass loss in percentage. We have lots of number. Ano gagawin mo dyan? Kunin mo yung average, okay? And kunin mo rin yung standard deviation. And then, you will assign, sino sa tingin mo, yung questionable. So, mamimili ka. Ang pagpili ng questionable data, inference nyo na yun. Kayo na yung makakadama nun. Kasi tignan nyo, for this data set, ano yung feeling natin medyo malayo? Ito, 10, 10, 11, 9, 9, 7. Tapos 10, 9, 11, 9, 10, 11. Kasi mapapansin mo, itong 7, this is something that is questionable compared with the other numbers. Kasi yung other numbers magkakadikit and repeating, di ba? So, meron 10, merong 9, merong 11, pero yung 7, isang beses lang siya nag-appear. So, that will be our questionable value. Okay? So, kayo yung mag-a-assign nun. So, tingnan mo kung sino yung medyo parang weird, no? Either siya yung lowest or siya yung highest. Okay? So, ganun yung way to check whether that is an outlier or not. Okay? So, titignan mo kung sino yung lowest or highest. Then, if yung lowest highest na yun, medyo malayo with the other numbers, then that will be your questionable value. Okay, to solve for the G calculated, that will be the absolute value of the questionable value minus X bar divided by the standard deviation. Okay, so the questionable value here is 7.8 minus the average, all divided by the standard deviation. So we get G calculated equals 2.13. Then after mo makuha yung 2.13 na calculated, you will check the table kung ano yung G tabulated for that number of observation. Kung ilan yung data mo, piliin mo dito. Okay, kunwari you have 10 data. So ibig sabihin nun, ito yung G value mo. However, for the previous example, we have 12 data points. So that means this will be our G value. Okay, so yeah. Okay, then what next? No, so what's next is that you're going to compare with your G calculated with your G tabulated. So tignan mo kung sino yung mas malaki. Since we concluded that G calculated is lower than G tabulated, pag lower, ibig sabihin, retain. Okay, so that means your data is not an outlier. Okay, so hindi talaga siya outlier. Okay, so hindi siya product ng gross error. So pwedeng ano yan, systematic error. Okay, so ganun. Pero kapag may outlier yan, then that is a product of gross error. Okay? Ayun, so yun lang. Excuse me. So yan, tapos na tayo sa stats na. So again, since we are done with the PowerPoint, pupunta na tayo sa ating worksheet na. So bago tayo mag-start, ilista muna natin yung equations. Nakalimutan ko kasi i-type dito sa ating Excel tuloy, sa ating sa ating worksheet na. So sulat natin lahat ng equation na kailangan natin. So don't worry, ako nga di ko rin kabisado yan, no. Okay lang maggawa kayo ng notes, no. Mamaya ko ituturo yung calculator method na. Okay, mamaya na yun. So dito muna tayo sa usual method. So okay lang kahit di nyo makabisado yan. That's okay. Kasi ako rin di ko kabisado yan. Yung equations. No? Pero basta alam mo kung paano siya isolve. That's okay lang. Okay. Turo ko sa inyo yung shortcut, yung calculator method, and tuturo ko yung long method. Okay? Naglo-load pa yung ano. Okay, so kunin natin yung equations na gagamitin natin for ano ba yung hanap dito? Mean, median, mode, standard dev. Okay. Okay, so yung mean, alam nyo na yon. Pangit talaga ng summation ko. Excuse me. So mean is the sum of all the measurements divided by your number of measurements. Yung median, ano yung median? Ito yung panggitnang value. Okay. And then lastly, you have your mode, ano yung pinaka nauulit kung meron. And then standard deviation. So dalawang equation lang kailangan natin. So standard dev is equal to the square root of pangit talaga ng summation symbol ko. Kanga lang. Walang lines eh. Okay, so we have our equations here. So we have the average, the standard dev, and the G calculated value. Okay, so ito yung gagamitin natin in order for us to get the required stuff here sa ating worksheet na. So hopefully may worksheet din kayo naka-open sa inyo. So kung nasa laptop kayo, you can also use Excel. No? Okay. Pero I suggest na mag-manual muna tayo before we go with the Excel and the shortcuts, no? Okay, so yung sa shortcut naman na ituturo ko, standard dev lang masosolve natin dun eh. Okay, so yan. Pati yung mean. Okay, so we have this water hardness data. Okay, so ito yung profile ng water hardness in ppm. So ito yung ating numbers. So, unang gagawin nyo is to check kung ilang measurement meron. So, ilang ba measurement natin? Isa, dalawa, tatlo, apat, lima, anim, pito. So, 10 to, no? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, we have 10 data points na. So, ang gagawin nyo, in order to solve for all this stuff asked here, is gawa kayo ng ganitong table. So you have your x bar, x, no? So x is any of this number, tatabulate mo sila doon, followed by x bar. So kung ano yung average, lalagay mo dito. Then, susunod mo yung x minus x bar. That means ito minus the value of this one. By the way, yung value ng x bar, that will be the same all throughout. Same lang yan all throughout, ha? Okay? Then, lalagay mo yung difference nila. Ito minus ito dito. Then, that will be followed by the square of this number here. So, square mo to lahat. Okay? Pag in-square mo to lahat, walang negative na value na dito. Okay? So, ayan. So, ano pwede natin gawin dito? So, una, ang gagawin nyo is that you arrange your data from lowest to highest. Okay? So, that will help us para sa grabs test mamaya. Okay? So, arrange mo muna siya lowest to highest, no? So, ano ba yung lowest dito? So, that will be 305. Susunod. 305. Ito, 325. Ang susunod ay 328. Next one will be 336. Arrange nyo siya lowest to highest. Ayan yung una nyong gagawin. Ano susunod sa 336? 345. Then, that will be followed by 357. And then, kanina pa ba yung nakasara? Okay, so yan. So, 357, that will be followed by 369. Next one will be 384. And then 396. Ay, nakalimutan natin yung 384. Dalawa yung 384. And then 396. Yan. So, 10 na yung data natin. Okay, so we have the 10 data here, arranged from lowest to highest. So, what's next? Kunin mo yung average. So, let's solve for the average. So, that will be x bar. I-add na lang muna natin dito. Kunin natin yung sum of x sa pinakababa. Sabay kayo pag nagsusolve ba? Pag nagsusolve, sabay kayo magpindot-pindot din sa calcio. Okay? So, add ko lang muna lahat. Okay, so ang ating sum of x, please check kung same din kayo na nakuha sa akin, ha? So, yung sum ng lahat ng value ng x would be 35 29. So, please check kung parehas tayo na na-solve. Pag hindi, sabihin nyo lang. Okay? So, yan. So, i-add natin yan lahat. Let me double check. Okay, so 3529. Okay, so yan yung ating sum ng lahat ng value ng x. So, okay. Then, what's next is that we are going to solve for the value of the average or the mean. So, paano kukunin yung mean? That's the sum of x divided by the total number of measurements. Okay, so kunin natin. So, that's 3529 divided by 10. So, basically, that will be 352.9. Okay? So, yun yung lalagay natin sa next column. Kung ano yung average, yun yung lalagay natin lahat dyan. Okay? So, 352.9. Okay? So, yan. We have written the average sa second column, 352.9. Then, what's next? So, what's next is that you will subtract this and this number. Okay? So, subtract mo lang sila. So, give me some time. Okay? So, sabay kayo ha. Okay, so subtract na natin. Okay, so ito na yung ating difference ng x and x bar. Okay, so madali lang to sa Excel. Kung nag-Excel kayo ngayon, edi kanina pa kayo tapos na. Pero mag-manual muna tayo. Okay, so ganun lang. This minus that, you will get these digits na. So please double check, no? Kung same tayo ng kuha. If may mali ako, let me know lang. Okay. Anyway, what's next is that we are going to get the square of this number. So, kung kunin mo yung square niyan, so that means mawawala yung negative. Lahat ng value dito ay positive. So, square nyo na lang yung number na yan. So, let me do that. No? Medyo marami to. So, kayo din, mag-solve kayo, ha? By the way, kapag kukuha kayo ng square, huwag nyo na isama yung negative sign. Kasi, pag in-square mo naman to, positive na yung value niyan eh. Okay. So, itong digit na lang, then square nyo na lang. Okay. So, Okay, so yan. So I'm done with ano, squaring the third column. Please check no kung same tayo ng values. If hindi tayo parehas ng values, let me know. Okay. So we will double check. No? Okay. So yan. So we're actually almost done. So gagawin na lang natin is to get the sum of the last column. No? So kunin mo yung sum niyan. So that will be the sum of x minus x bar squared. I-add natin lahat yan. Okay? So i-add ko lang ha. You work on your own then. Hopefully same tayo na nakuha na value. So that will be 8108.9. Okay? So if may objection sa sum, please let me know. Okay? So yan, we're almost done. Okay? So we are able to solve for the x bar, the average, and then the sum of the x minus x bar square. Okay? So we can now solve for the uh, required items sa ating question. Okay, so ano yung tanong doon? Number one, kunin daw ang mean, median, mode, followed by standard dev, and yun lang. Okay, so yun lang naman. So for number one, kunin natin yung mean, median, mode, and the standard dev. Okay, so for the mean, nakuha na natin yan, 352.9 ppm, parts per million. So wag mo na ilagay yung unit. Okay na yung number lang. Then the median. So anong gagawin nyo sa median? Okay, the reason why we arrange the number from lowest to highest is, yun nga, check natin yung median. So gagawin nyo, you will cross out yung dulo, dulo-dulo. Okay, cross out mo yung dulo-dulo until mapunta ka sa gitna. Okay, so since dalawa yung nasa gitna natin, kasi even number tong measurement natin, you will get the average no, ng nasa gitna. So that will be 345 plus 357 divided by 2. Okay, so kukunin natin yung average nila para makuha yung median. 345 plus 357 divided by 2. 345, 357 divided by 2. And that will be 351. Okay. So mapapansin ninyo, sa inyong measurement, yung value ng mean and yung median, medyo magkalapit. Okay, medyo magkalapit sila. Okay, so we're done with the median. Next one is yung mode. So again, when we say mode, that is the most frequent number in your measurement. So ano kaya yung mode natin dito? Ito, so yung 384. So that will be our mode kasi siya yung pinaka nauulit. Sir, paano po kung maraming nauulit? Edi ano, bimodal yan or trimodal, no? Kunwari, dalawang ganito, dalawang ganyan, no? So, edi dalawa yung mode mo. Okay? So, bimodal tawag doon. Sir, paano pag walang nauulit? Edi no mode. Okay? Wala siyang mode. Okay? So, ganun yung gagawin nyo lang. Pag walang nauulit, again, walang mode. Sulat mo lang, no mode. Wala siya sa mode. Okay. Okay, and then last one, we solve for the standard deviation. So what's the formula again? That is the square root of the sum of x minus x bar squared divided by n minus 1. Ano yung n? That is the number of your measurements. Okay, so ilan ba measurement natin? 10. Okay, so 10 minus 1. So plug in lang natin, stdev. Pag stdev, standard deviation yan ha. So, yung sum ng x minus x bar square, ito yon, ito yan. So, kopyahin lang natin yan. Yung n minus 1, so ilang measurement meron ka? 10 minus 1. So, solve na natin. Square root 8108.9 10 minus 1. So, the standard deviation would be 30.02. Okay. So, that's the standard deviation. Okay. So, that is our answer. Okay. So, ayan. So, yun yung sagot natin sa number 1. Daming ginawa na. Okay. So, that is the mean, median, mode, STDev, standard deviation. So, again, what's the mean? That is the average of all your data points. When you say median, that is the middle value. So, if that is an odd number measurement, yung nasa pinakagitna. Pero kapag yan ay even, you will have to solve for the average ng nasa gitna pa. And then yung mode, yun yung pinaka nauulit. If maraming mode, then that's okay lang. Pag walang mode, that's okay lang then. Sabihin mo na lang, no mode na. And then last one, we have the standard deviation. So standard dev, yan yung formula. And then we are able to get 30.02. So ganyan ka spread out yung data natin. Medyo malaki yan, okay? Medyo malaki talaga. Okay, so yan. We're done with number 1. So if you want to take a screenshot, please do. Okay, so kung gusto nyo mag-screenshot niyan, gawin nyo lang. Okay. Okay, so if done, let's proceed with number 2. Ano yung question sa number 2? Identify whether there is an outlier. If so, solve for the mean, median, mode, standard dev if the outlier is to be eliminated. Okay, so gagawin daw natin from our data, we'll check if there is an outlier. Okay, if meron, tanggalin daw natin, then let's solve for another mean, median, mode, and standard dev. The new mean, median, mode, standard dev. Okay, di ba sabi ko kanina, when checking for outlier, you have to see if merong questionable number. Okay, and the reason why we arrange this from lowest to highest is that pwede mo kasi gawin suspected number, yung pinakauna or yung pinakadulo. Yung nasa gitna, hindi yan magiging outlier kasi nasa gitna siya ng measurement. So, pwedeng nasa dulo or yung nasa baba. Okay, so let's check whether 305 is an outlier. Pag hindi, check natin si 396 kung outlier siya. So, let's do that. No? So, again, what's the formula for Grubbs test? Ano yung formula for Grubbs test? Gcalc equals. So, Gcalc is the absolute value of the questionable value, QV, minus, yung average, divided by the standard dev. Okay? So, suppose, ang aking unang ite-test for outlier ay yung 305. Tignan mo kung outlier yan. Kasi tignan mo, siya lang yung 0. Yung iba, 2, 4, 5, something. Tignan ko kung outlier tong 305. Okay? So again, pwede mo i-check for outlier yung nasa dulo, taas, or baba. Okay? Pero yung mga gitna, hindi yan magiging outlier. Okay? So, yan. So let's check this one, 305. So plug in natin yan. So our questionable value will be 305 minus the average, 352.9, divided by the standard deviation, which is 30.02. Let's solve for the Gcalc. Again, positive yung value niyan ha. May absolute value eh. 30.02. So the value is 1.596. Three decimal places kukunin natin. Kasi yung nasa table ay 3 decimal places din ata. Okay? Okay, so our G calculated is, again, 1.596. Okay? Tignan natin ngayon yung tabulated. Nasara ko pala yung PowerPoint. So check natin kung ano yung G tab for 10 measurements. Okay, so ito yung G tabulated for 10 measurements. So 10 is 2176. Okay, so 2176 yung ating G tabulated. 2176. Okay. So lagay natin yan. 2176. Okay. Then ano yung gagawin natin? Compare. Gcalc, Gtab. Tignan mo kung sino yung mas malaki. Sino mas malaki? Yung Gtab. No? If your G calculated is less than your G tabulated, pag mas maliit siya sa Gtab, hindi yun outlier. Okay, so that means 305 is not not an outlier. So buburahin ba natin siya? Hindi. Okay, so ganun lang gagawin niya. So you assign an outlier. Tignan mo kung outlier siya. Use the formula for the G, the Grubbs test. Okay, so Gcalc. Ito yun. And then you compare your tabulated. Saan makikita yung tabulated? Edi nasa table. Okay, tignan nyo na lang itong PowerPoint. No? Save nyo na rin yan. Ito, picturean nyo na yan. Okay, so then you will compare them kung sino yung mas malaki. If your G calculated is less than your G tabulated, then hindi yun outlier. Pero kapag mas malaki yung G calculated kaysa sa G tabulated, outlier yon. Okay? So we say that 305 is not an outlier. So hindi siya evicted. Sino yung pwede natin i-check? So we will retain this number, ha? So tignan natin si 396, no? Baka siya yung outlier. Tignan natin. So palitan lang natin yung numbers. So 396, check natin kung outlier siya. Okay, so that will be 1.436. Obviously, hindi din siya outlier. Okay, so that means our measurements here, wala tayong outlier. So therefore, hindi tayo gumawa ng gross error. Okay, so ang pwedeng reason for a big standard deviation is pwedeng system error yan. Okay, pwedeng may system error, may nagkamali ng ng measurement. Okay, so so in order for us to resolve that, pwede tayo mag-calibrate. Okay, i-calibrate uli natin yung instrument. Okay, so wala tayong wala tayong outlier, so that means wala tayong gross error. So pwedeng ang reason for big standard dev ay systematic error, or pwede ring random error din yan. Hindi natin masay kasi numbers lang meron tayo. Hindi tayo nag-experiment eh. Okay? Pero kapag kayo yung nag-experiment yan, ma-assess mo naman saan kaya ang dahilan kung bakit mataas yung standard dev. Kayo na mismo makaka-feel yan. Pag ako gumagawa ng experiment, tapos pag malaki yung standard deviation ko, ginagawa ko dati, inuulit ko lahat. Di na bali time consuming. Basta yung aking measurement ay magkakadikit na. Thesis kasi yun eh. Sa thesis, kapag malaki yung standard deviation nyo, mag-ingat kayo. Baka doon kayo gisahin. Okay? So, mag-iingat kapag malaki yung standard dev. Okay? As much as possible, maliit lang dapat yung standard deviation. Lalo na kapag thesis. Okay? So, ngayon pa lang, binibigyan ko na kayo ng tips. Okay? So, yan. So, ngayon naman, gawin natin yung calculator shortcut. So, yung calculator shortcut, setup ko lang. Wait lang ha. Chinek ko muna kung tama yung standard deviation ko. So, ngayon, tuturo ko sa inyo yung calculator shortcut. Okay? So, buksan ko lang yung camera. So, if yung calculator nyo ay Casio 991ES Plus, 991ES, o kaya 570ES, or ClassWiz EX, no? Kung ganun yung mga calculator nyo, yung Casio yung alam ko eh. Okay. So, pwede nyo to sundan. Hopefully, nakikita nyo siya ng malinaw. Okay. So, this is my calculator. This is very old. So, since 2014, kasama ko siya. Pero nung board exam, di siya ginamit. Bawal daw kasi may solar panel. May pang Google yan eh. Di ko alam kung ba't bawal yan. Pero yung 570ES, yun yung pwede. Yung walang solar panel. Ewan ko sa PRC bakit bawal to. Okay. So for you, clear ko lang ulit. Ayan. So na-reset ko na. So for you, ayan. For you to use the statistics function of your calculator, ganito lang gagawin nyo. Punta kayo sa mode. Then marami nakalagay. So you have the comp. Hindi ko alam kung ano yung comp. Number 2, complex. 3, statistics. 4, base n. So pang logarithm yan. 5, equation. Magagamit natin yan sa equilibrium. Matrix. Hindi nyo gagamitin yan. Table, vector. Pang physics na to. Yung matrix table, vector. Sa chemistry, ang gagamitin lang natin ay yung stat pati yung equation, EQN. So, itong EQN, sa equilibrium na natin i-discuss yan. Okay? So, punta muna tayo sa stats. Okay? So, you will press 3 kasi stat ay 3. And then you are given with another set of menu. No? So, yung number 1, nakalagay 1 var. No? Ibig sabihin nun, 1 variable. Okay, so ano yung 1 variable? Di value of x lang. Okay? So, ito yung gagamitin natin, yung 1 var. Number 2, AB plus BX. Ito naman ay kapag mag-linear regression ka. Okay? Hindi na natin gagawin yan. Kasi sa biostats nyo na yan. Okay? So, itong 1 var, ito yung gagamitin natin. A plus BX, this is linear regression. Itong C naman, itong 3, this is quadratic. 4 for logarithmic functions, 5 for exponential function, 6 for base for exponential function, then na iba-iba lang yung format. Okay? So, ang gagamitin natin sa chem ay itong 1 lang, yung 1 variable. Kasi x lang naman yung meron tayo. Okay? So, you will press that 1 var. Then you will have a table na nakalagay doon, x, di ba? Yan. So, nakalagay dyan x lang. And then, you can plug in your data dito sa ating table. No? So, buksan ko lang yung worksheet dito sa computer para ma-type natin yung numbers. So, kung familiar na kayo dito, good yon. Pero kung hindi pa, di eto. Okay, so ginagawa na natin siya. Pero sir, kapag wala kaming ganyan sa Calcu, edi ano ka na lang, mag-ano ka na lang, manual. O kaya pwede din mag-Excel. Pero kapag quiz, kayo bahala. Kayo naman may control sa computer niya. Okay? So, pwede kayo mag-Excel or laptop. Kayo bahala. Ay, nasa laptop nga pala yung Excel. Okay, so let me type the figures So, type natin 325. So, lagay mo doon 325. So, para ito, malagay mo doon para itong value, malagay mo doon, you have to press the equal sign sa baba. Pindutin mo yung equal sign sa baba. Ayun na yung 325. Okay? Then, gawin mo yun for the rest of the numbers. So, type na natin lahat ng digits. 396, 345. Again, number, then equal sign para ma-plug in dito sa box. Ay, wala. 336. Ano pa? 384. Okay. 384. Let me type it. 305. 369. 328. 384. And 357. Okay, so yan. So we have 10 digits na naka-plug in dito sa ating stat, no? Yan. So ito yung 1, 325, 94, 45, 35, 84, 05, 69, 28, 84, and 57, 357. Okay? So para makuha nyo yung central tendencies dito, ganito lang gagawin nyo. You will press yung on. Wala na siya. Okay? So, ang susunod, para ma-access nyo yung mga standard deviation, etc., may nakikita kayong shift na button na yellow. And sa baba, may makita kang stat na yellow. So, zoom in natin. So, ito yung stat na dilaw. Okay? So, yun yung i-access natin. Okay? So, ang gagawin nyo, pindutin nyo yung shift, press yung shift, followed by pagka-press ng shift, pindutin nyo yung stat. Okay? So, you will be given with this menu. Okay? So, you have the type, the data, the sum, the variance, the distribution, the min-max. No? So, ang kailangan natin dito ay yung data for variance. No? So, variance, yung measure of central tendency. So, ayan, variance. Press 4. Okay? So, number 1, you have small letter n. It will tell you how many data points you have. Alam na natin yan, 10, di ba? Number 2, this will give us the average. Number 3, this is the standard deviation pero population ang equation. Hindi yun yung gagamitin natin. Kasi kapag sinabi natin population, standard deviation, iba yung equation niya. Okay? So, iba yung equation niya sa diniscuss natin. Itong SX ang gagamitin natin. Okay? SX, ito yung standard deviation na equation natin yung ginamit. Okay? So, ang pwede mo kunin dito ay itong X bar. So, pindutin nyo lang yung 2. So, lalagay dyan X bar, then press equal sign para lumabas yung digit. 352.9. Diba yan din yung nasolve natin kanina? Okay. So, yan yung average, no? Next one. Balik ulit tayo sa variance. Pag pinindot natin yung SX, yan ay standard deviation na yung equation natin yung ginamit. So, let's press 4. Press 4. Then, equal sign. 30.02. Yan din yung nakuha natin kanina. Ni-round off ko lang. Okay? So, that's how you solve for the standard deviation for the mean ng mabilisan. Okay? Kunwari, grabs test yung nasa quiz. Pwede gawin nyo, i-calculate nyo na lang yung average pati yung standard dev. Kasi yun yung gagamitin mo, di ba? Kapag nag-grabs test ka. So, ganun. So, pwede nyo na i-calcu yun direktahan. Pero if wala kayong calcu, edi manual. Okay, so mag-manual kayo. Pero kung kayo, naka-computer, bigay ko pa sa inyo yung isa pang technique na sa Excel. Okay, so we're done with the calcu. Kung gusto nyo panoorin ulit, wait nyo na lang sa ating YouTube channel yung video ng class na to. Mamayang gabi ko siya i-upload. Okay. What if, kunwari, gusto mo, Excel. Buksan natin yung Excel. Medyo matagal mag-load to ha. Bagal ng laptop ko eh. Wait lang. Aray, nagmamadali ka talaga sa quiz mo, no? Pwede kayo mag-Excel. Pero kung wala kayong ganyan, wala kayong Excel or wala kayong calculator na may ganyang function, yung stat function, then you have to do it manually. Okay? Ang problem lang with manual solving ay medyo matagal. Okay? Medyo matagal para makuha mo yung final answer. And you have to double check pa. Baka mamaya nagkamali ka ng copy. So, wait lang natin tong Excel. Mag-open. Medyo matagal yan. Kunwari, yung class natin, di ba, 10:30. Yung laptop ko, binubuksan ko siya 10 a.m. pa lang. Kasi ang bagal niya mag-load. Ganun siya kabagal. Tanda na to eh. So, wait lang natin. Turuan ko kayo sa Excel. Although, siguro alam nyo naman na to. No? Okay. So, let's wait lang. Di ba? Ang tagal. Ayun. Loading pa. Para tayong accountancy students, no? Pag ganito sa accounting, eh. Nakabukas sa Excel. Teka lang, ha? Okay, so we have the Excel now. Okay na ata siya. Loaded na lahat na. Zoom in na lang natin. So let me type here, X. Kunwari, di ba, yung table pinapasolve ko sa inyo, no? Pwede ganito gawin nyo. X bar, ibig sabihin nun average. X minus X bar. X minus X bar. And then X minus X bar. Paired. Type ko muna yung numbers. Wait lang. So, 325. Okay. So, ito yung aking numbers. 325, 396, 345, 336, 384, 305, 369, 328, 384, 357. Okay. So, if you want to arrange this from lowest to highest, i-select mo lang yung range mo na yan. Kung gusto mo lang i-arrange sa lowest to highest. So, select all of this. Then, you press, teka lang, hindi ko makita. Itong sort and filter. Pindutin mo yan. Then, smallest to largest. No. Then, press mo yung expand. Okay? So, ayan. Okay. So, yan, we sorted our data from lowest to highest. Kung gusto mo makuha yung X bar, dito na lang ako sa baba. Teka lang. But, okay. Kung gusto mo X bar. Okay. X bar, average yan. So, you press equal sign and then you press average. Okay. You type average, open parenthesis. You select all the cells. Okay. Then close parenthesis. Okay. So, again, X bar. or the average is equal average, open parenthesis, the range, close parenthesis, then enter. So, yan ang X bar mo. Okay? Actually, pwede mo na rin kunin yung standard dev dito, stdev. Okay? The reason why I type standard deviation as stdev is ganito din kasi yung kwento sa Excel. No? stdev yung tawag sa kanya. So, for you to solve for the standard deviation, that is equal sign, stdev. Okay? So, type mo lang stdev, open parenthesis, highlight mo lahat. Highlight mo lahat ng digits, close parenthesis, enter. So, yun na. Yun yung standard dev. Round off lang natin. 3002. Again, equation, equal sign, stdev, open parenthesis, yung cells mo, i-highlight mo lang, close parenthesis, then enter. Pero, since yung worksheet, gusto ko i-fill out nyo siya. Okay? So, gagawin nyo lang doon. Kung ano yung X bar, copy mo lang yan dyan. Okay? So, 352.9. Then, you select this cell. Then, pipindutin mo yung lower right, di ba? Di ba pag tinapat mo yung cursor sa lower right, magiging plus symbol yung inyong cursor. Yung kulay black na plus symbol. So, double click mo lang yan. Okay, may sumobra. So, yan, mafe-fill niya yung cells mo. Okay. Again, press mo lang yung lower right. Then, pwede nyo i-drag yun. Okay. So, yan, same value yan. Okay, so yan. Next one, x minus x bar. So, ano yan? This minus this lang. Okay. Ayan, naglag na siya. Ayun, enter. Then, para makontinue yung measurement, yung solving, yung calculation, press mo lang yung lower right again. Then, i-drag mo siya pababa. Okay? So, ito din yung nasa worksheet natin kanina, di ba? And then, lastly, square mo yan. So, you highlight this cell. Then, you press itong button na yan. Hindi ko alam kung tawag dyan. Pero yung raise na yan, then raise to 2 mo yan. Okay? So, meaning yan is square nyo yan. Okay? So, ganun lang. Then, ito yung kukunin natin na sum, di ba? So, sulat natin sum x minus x bar square. So, para makuha mo yan, yung sum ng lahat ng to, okay? You press equal sign, then you type in sum, S-U-M, open parenthesis, then highlight all the numbers you have there for that column. Then you press enter. Ito rin yung nasa sinolve natin kanina, di ba? Okay. Okay. Kung gusto mo mag-manual solving ng standard dev, yung formula ng standard dev, di ba? Square root of this number divided by the number of measurements minus 1. So, paano mo yun ita-type dito? So, ano yan? SQRT, meaning yan square root, open parenthesis, highlight, select mo tong cell na to, because yan yung sum ng x minus x bar square. Select mo yan, divided by 10 minus 1. 9 na lang pindutin mo. Okay. So, 10 minus 1. And minus 1 sa baba, di ba? So, yan. 10 minus 1, edi 9. Okay. And enter, di ba? So, we will get the same stdev. So, ito yung shortcut. You just type stdev, then you select the range. Or, kung gusto mo, yung style ng worksheet natin, ayan, pwedeng ganyan gawin mo. Okay. So, kunin mo lang yung sum niyan. So, kunin mo yung square root ng sum na to divided by n minus 1. So, you will get the same stdev. Okay? So, kapag nagko-quiz kayo sa chapter 2, so, ito, for sure, alam ko perfect nyo to. Okay? Kasi stats lang to eh. Pwede nyo siya i-excel, pwede nyo siya i-calcu, no? So, it's up to you. Kayo bahala kapag kayo ay nag-take ng quiz, no? Pwede mag-excel kayo, okay? Kung nasa computer kayo, pero kung nagsa-cellphone kayo, kung sa cellphone kayo nagte-take ng quiz, pwede nyo i-calculator. Okay? So, yan. So, those are the options. You can do manually, pwedeng i-calc nyo, pwede nyo i-computer naman, i-Excel. So, yan yung mga techniques natin. So, I will leave you the option kung ano yung gusto nyo gawin. Okay? Kayo bahala. Basta, ma-perfect nyo yung quiz 2. Madali lang yung quiz 2 kasi stats lang yun. Okay? So, that's all for today. We are done with chapter 2. Ibig sabihin, malapit na tayo sa midterm na. So we're done with chapter 2 and that's all for today. If you have any questions, just let me know. Send a PM. No, message na lang kayo sa Teams or sa Canvas. Okay, so without further ado, kain na tayo. Okay, so lunchtime na yun. So I'll see you again next week. No? By the way, next week pala ay founding anniversary ni FEU. No? So since founding anniversary ni FEU, may mga activities na. May mga activities next week. Meron akong flare discussion. So, yung Wednesday, Thursday, wala kayong klase noon next week. Okay? Sa Thursday, may i-discuss ako about adulting 101. So, ito i-share ko doon kung paano mag-adulting, no? Kasi I started my adulting life nung ako ay 20 years old. 20 years old ako graduate eh. So, ngayon 23 na ako. Marami na akong experience sa adulting. So, share ko 'yan doon sa inyo. So, attend kayo ng ng Flair seminar ko. Okay. So, that's Thursday, 3:30 PM to 4:30 PM. I'll see you again next week. Stay safe and ingat. Yan. So, yung recording nito upload ko sa YouTube, ha. Bye-bye. At kain na po tayo ng lunch.